When we are talking about control, we are talking about some sort of domain, some sort of power to create an alteration in a certain state, or to keep something at a certain state. Let me explain better. There is this illusion of control. We can't control anything at all. And that is something to think about, my friends, because we live in a world that sells to us an idea of control. That we are in some way in control of everything that happens around us. For example, media creates an illusion, perpetuates an illusion of control. And this illusion of control can be seen, for example, in the way the media gives us information. It gives us these drops of information, and with it, it gives us an idea that we are participating, we are taking part in such events around the globe. For example, another example is we identify ourselves with the media, and the idea it spreads. It is very strange because when we look at reality, we understand that there is no control. Everything is happening, and we are immersed in this process of happening. Control does not exist. Of course, an individual can control himself. That is something to think about, my friends, because that is really hard. And let's go back to the word control. We have to understand that the only real control we have in the material reality is the control of our breathing. For example, you can hold your breath for as long as you can. And that, my friend, is the only control you have. You can breathe consciously, but mostly we breathe unconsciously. We are not aware of the breathing itself. Only if we drive our attention to it, we can be aware of it. It's interesting, my friends, because if we understand that the only control we have is of our breathing, everything else becomes somewhat like the wind. The wind is constantly blowing, whether we feel it or not. The air currents are traveling up in the skies. We are part of it in some way because we need air to survive, and we are on planet Earth. And those air currents, they basically they regulate the atmosphere. And remember, that is not under our control. It is interesting to think about, my friends, because when I say that everything else is like the wind, I'm saying that everything is happening, but it is not on our hands to control it, to decide something about it. We can only react to it. We can only react to what is happening. It is painful, my friends, to realize this lack of control. But at the same time, it can be freeing. We can just let go. Of course, to let go is still hard. We can let go of some things. We can let go of those things and other things. But to really let go and let the flow of existence happen, it is very tricky. It would need a level of consciousness that would allow the individual to not get attached to anything outside of himself. And that is tricky. Just saying that, I find that very, very tricky. And the thing is that this idea of control is so widespread that it is hard for us to accept the lack of control. And where we see this abomination that comes with this illusion of control, politics. I was talking about that in another video, and my friends, this is a very good example of that illusion of control. From both sides, from every side possible. Because it would be this way, this method to organize things that are very difficult to control. And when I say control, I say people. Politics would be this tool, this way of controlling people, their reactions, their actions, and all that. And my friends, that is very interesting to think about, because each day that goes by, we can drive our attention to this lack of control, to just observe it and accept it. The other day I was driving, and then I got this flat tire. It just happened. But it happened several times before, and will happen again probably. And at that time, I did not think about the event itself. I drove my attention to what I needed to do, and I just did it. It's a common idea in Taoism to allow oneself to be in harmony with the cycles of nature. And when I say cycles of nature, I say everything that is out of control. Like the wind, my friends. The wind just flows and blows accordingly to the cycles of nature. And that is very tricky, my friends, because nothing is under control. But remember, the individual can understand himself in such a way that he would be able to control his actions, control his reactions, and control his choices. But that would require a level of awareness. And to reach such states, one might need to flow with the events of life. That is hard because we tend to get attached to good moments and tend to desire to step away from bad moments. But they're both the same. They're just manifestations of everything that is happening through the individual perception. The subjective aspect of reality, it's a very mysterious thing, because like the universe, we don't know much about it, but at the same time we can experience it from a perspective, from a point of view. The message today, my friends, is about control. We can't control anything. Nothing is under control. But we can look at that absence of control and see that we are in this universe, and we can choose to let the things happen and flow by themselves, being not just a bystander, but an observer, a part of everything. After all, everything is Mandala.